Hey guys, it's Mr. Haddock here, and today I wanted to review some of the important and confusing terms that you guys experienced on yesterday's Go Formative. So the first question that a lot of you struggled with was question number 3. Question number 3 was talking about testable questions and what makes a question a good question in science. The first definition I wanted to give you is what a testable question is, which is a question that can be answered through experiment, observation, or other data collection by analyzing measurable data and evidence. Testable questions tend to be specific in scope. Questions that are not testable have some things in common. These tend to be based on opinions, morals, or other subjective things, as well as they tend to be general in scope. The next thing I want to do is I want to give you 5 examples of questions that are not testable. And what we are going to do is we are going to take these 5 questions and turn them into testable questions. So number 1 says, what makes something sink or float? In order to make that question testable, I would say something along the lines of, how well do different materials sink or float in water? Number 2, how do rockets work, is better formed. A better question would be, how does changing the shape of a rocket's fins change its flight? Question number 3, what makes a magnet attract things, is not testable, but rather we could reword it and say, does temperature have an effect on a magnet's strength? Number 4, what happens when water expands as it freezes? We could say, how much force is needed to keep water from expanding as it freezes? And then finally, number 5, instead of saying, what is bread mold, we would say, what conditions keep bread mold from growing on bread? The second part that a lot of you struggled with in Go Formative was questions 6 through 8, independent and dependent variables. So I want to give you the definition of both words. An independent variable is the variable changed by the scientist. The independent variable is not affected by other variables in the experiment. The way that I remember what an independent variable is I think I, the scientist, am changing this variable. The second type of variable is a dependent variable. This variable is the variable being measured in the experiment. And it depends on the independent variable. Its value depends. So the root word of dependent variable, depend, helps us remember this term. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a testable question, and we're going to identify the independent and the dependent variable. The testable question here is, does studying help improve test scores? The independent variable in this example is the amount of hours spent studying for the test. The scientist could say, one group of students, you can only study for 1 hour, a second group of students will study for 2 hours, and a third group of students will study for 3 hours. What depends on the amount of study time is the dependent variable, which in this case would be the test score. They are trying to figure out, is the number of hours that you spend studying going to impact your test score? So the test score depends on the independent variable, which is how many hours you spend studying. The second testable question that we are going to take a look at is, does smoking cigarettes cause lung cancer? I want you to take a second and think about what the independent variable might be in this experiment. If you said that the independent variable was the subject smoking cigarettes or not smoking them, very good, you were correct. Now take some time and think about what the dependent variable will be. What are we looking at? What depends on the independent variable? If you said whether or not the person develops lung cancer, then you are correct again. And that is all that independent and dependent variables are. Sometimes they can be difficult to identify, but if you just remember what is the scientist changing and what is dependent on what the scientist changes, or what is the data we're looking at, then it is much easier to identify independent and dependent variables. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take some time and go back and fix the questions that you got wrong on the scientific method assignment in Go Formative. I opened it up so that you could correct your answers and improve your score. I hope that you take this time and use it wisely in order to improve your score on Go Formative, because this grade is going in the gradebook. After this, you will be taking notes and you will watch the following video or the next video. Good luck on your corrections. I'll see you soon.